The next thing is the effective precipitation. We have to be concerned about how much effective moisture we get. Now, there is a difference between just rainfall and effective rainfall. There are a lot of times when it can rain for 15 minutes in the middle of July, and a half hour later you never know a drop of water ever hit the ground. Well, that's not effective rainfall. The plant never got the chance to use it. So what we're doing is we're monitoring the rainfall that was actually used by the plants. It actually entered the soil to be usable by the plants. And so that is monitored, and the Weather Service gives us that data, and we also can get that data for average values from the Washington Irrigation Guide or the Oregon Irrigation Guide or whatever state you're out of. That information is available to you for effective precipitation. So it's not going to be the total captured precipitation that you might read out of your rain gauge. It's going to be somewhat less because some of that water never was ever used by the crop. Next piece is the stored off-season soil moisture. Now, right now, there's a lot of people irrigating in this country, and it's the 1st of November. Well, why they're irrigating on the 1st of November is to fill that water profile so the plants are ready to go in next February and March when it's time to start growing. They filled the profile up with water. So that water's ready to go. It's in reserve. It's been stored over winter. And right now, they have water rights to be able to irrigate. We're kind of restricted in this valley as to how much water we have. And so a lot of these people only have water rights in the wintertime. Well, there's no need to be irrigating crops at this time. We don't need to be watering the turf. But we do need to be building the profile in these crops that we're going to be planting next spring, or maybe have planted this fall, that we want to build the profile, the water profile in the root zone for the growing season that's coming next spring.
Doesn't gravity drain that away in the winter?
Question is, will the gravity drain it away? Only will drain the gravitational water. All the rest of this will stay right where it is. It's not going anywhere. So we're going to retain like about 90% of the water we're putting into the ground. Well, if we're smart, we don't overwater it, so we retain it all.
What about freezing, though?
Well, the question is, will freezing have an effect? Freezing's not going to have any effect on the water. Now, it might have a little effect when we're trying to apply it. And sometimes you will go out here and see irrigation going on, and it looks like a beautiful ice sculpture. Well, you know, as it melts, it will then go into the ground. You know, we just hope we're not running it off the field in the process. So you just want to make sure we're putting it on slow enough we don't get any runoff. But what we're doing is
you gotta worry about them roots getting froze too, though.
Well, not really.
No?
What we're really doing is we're building up that profile so that we're taking advantage of the off-season water. With the off-season water, we're able to save an awful lot of our value-added water coming down the stream that otherwise just going to go to the ocean. So we're really taking advantage of a commodity at this point by doing this kind of irrigation. Now, the crops that they're mainly doing this to are going to be alfalfa seed and winter wheat in this part of the country. And the winter wheat's already been planted, and it's started to grow, and the alfalfa seed is a perennial, so it's coming back year after year after year. And they're going to take off here next spring, and they will have a full water reserve ready to go. And they may not have any more auxiliary water to give them next spring, depending on the water right and depending on what the winter provides as far as moisture that's going to be available next spring. You never know if you're going to have a good water year or a bad water year. So at least they know they'll have at least that much water to grow a crop with. So these wheat farmers will have a pretty good idea of a minimum yield that they're going to get out of their crop, because they're going to store at least 5 feet of water in that profile, so that they're guaranteed that much water.
If they do that in the off season, fill up the profile, then increase like the chance of flooding since it like means more in the winter and stuff.
Question is, when we fill that profile, is it going to create maybe potential flooding in the winter because we're restricting the intake rate of the water into the ground? Absolutely. You've increased your potential for runoff considerably by doing that. Also, you've really increased your leaching characteristic of that soil. So if we get a really wet winter, we've already filled the profile, now we're going to put a whole bunch more water on. It's just going to push that water down. And it'll stay at field capacity for, instead of now 5 feet, maybe 6 feet, maybe 7 feet, maybe 8 feet deep. Now if we have a shallow soil that maybe at 5 feet we hit rock, what's going to happen? We fill it up to saturation, no place for the water to go, so it's going to run off if we've already filled the profile. So yeah, it can become a problem if we have a really wet winter, you bet. But again, most of this is done off of a really good statistical knowledge of what's happened in the years past, and so you're making your best management decisions off of past history. And so we generally have a pretty good idea of what we can put in and what to expect in effective precipitation to fill the rest of our needs. So we won't fill that all the way full if we know we're going to get 5 inches of effective rainfall over the winter. We'll save 5 inches of total root zone capacity and count on those 5 inches to show up during the winter. If we get 8 inches during the winter, we're going to have some deep percolation, maybe a little runoff. We're taking a few chances, but I guess farming is a crapshoot. So, yeah, that's right. Legalize gambling.
And then you got to worry about what the price is going to be, right?